All right, team players, Bob and Joe, we're back again with another episode of Local Football Flavor. Today, we're going to be talking about our first impressions, reactions to the playoff games that were this past week. We got some things that we got to talk about. We got some things that we're very interested in. And one of those is Patrick Mahomes. One of those is Joe Burrow. And the other is your Philadelphia Eagles. So let's kick it off with Local Football Flavor.
Welcome to Local Football Flavor, where we talk to local fans to get the real information of what's going on with their team.
Yeah, Bob, I mean...
Feeling the hurt so good.
How do you come off of that broken arm or that broken leg?
Well, you know...
I could watch that injury, and they show it on replay like 6 times, and he's hobbling like he's like 1 foot in the grave, and then he comes out of halftime like nothing ever happened. What did they inject him with is also part of my question.
So, you know, the thing is that this is the thing about Patrick Mahomes, and we said it last broadcast, is that he wins. And the craziest thing is, so I missed most of the first half of that game. I was running some errands, and I thought the game actually started, I believe it was like at 3:30. It actually started at 3:10, so I missed like the first 20 minutes of that game. Mm-hmm. So I didn't see the Chad Henne. I didn't see the ankle or the leg and whatnot. And I come back in the second half, and I'm like, why is Patrick Mahomes like, what is he doing? Like, what's happening? What is all this nonsense? Because we had him, if you remember correctly, we had him for a rushing touchdown. Obviously, he didn't get that. If he had been healthy, if he had been healthy the whole game, I don't doubt. There's not a shadow of a doubt in my mind that he would have gotten those numbers by the way he played with one leg. An analyst that I saw on TikTok actually ranked the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL. His number 1 is Patrick Mahomes. His number 2 is Joe Burrow. His number 3 is Patrick Mahomes on one leg. And I thought that it was really funny because as we've said before, Patrick Mahomes is magical. He can do things that no other quarterback can do. He's been doing things that no other quarterback can do for a long time. In quarterback years, I guess, in young quarterback years, at least for a team. He has weapons. He's supported. His coach loves him. The city loves him. The fan base loves him. But to do what he did, there is some voodoo magic happening in Kansas City, because when I saw Tony Pollard go down with the same injury, now different position, of course, same injury, he's not coming back in the game. You're not going to see him probably for a little while.
Mahomes shouldn't have come back in that game either.
But Mahomes, if Mahomes had not been in that game, I mean, Chad Henne could have piloted them to a win in that game.
I don't agree with that.
The coaching towards the end of that Jaguars game, for the Jags at least, it brought on some questions for me. It was a little suspect for the decision-making processes that were happening there.
Where do you feel the suspect Jags began?
I mean, basically probably like the whole fourth quarter. Okay. It was just questionable, some of the decisions that they were making. I mean, like, they had that run back with Jamal Agnew, and then they had the unfortunate circumstance to have that fumble.
And that
by Jamal Agnew as well,
because Christian Kirk got caught off the field because of the injury. I firmly believe that if that ball was thrown to Christian Kirk, which is the position it was thrown to, just Agnew was out there with Kirk's injury, I don't see Kirk fumbling. I see Kirk catching the ball, falling, first down. Now it's first and goal, only down by 10.
I actually want to apologize to all Jaguars fans, especially Brandon, because when I got home from the store and from running my errands, I noticed a bet on FanDuel that was fourth quarter, Christian Kirk, 35-plus yards, and that's it. It was like plus 125. I saw another one that was Travis Kelce, plus 30 yards. Only 30 yards in the fourth quarter. He was crushing it all game. I was like, yeah, I'll bet that. Travis Kelce goes, I'm going to get you 27. And then it might have been second. I don't know. It was second half or fourth quarter, whatever. Either way, Travis Kelce fell short. And then the first series after I made the bet, Travis Kelce almost got all those yards on that first series after I made the bet. On the first series after the Kansas City bet, the first play, Christian Kirk goes down. The first play. And, your brother and I, we've been talking, is that anything that I suggest that I actually, the bets that I suggest to everybody here, we put money on together as a unit. But if I privately put money on something by myself, it's going to lose. And it's going to lose in resounding fashion. So there's a guy on TikTok and on Twitter who a lot of people are doing the $10 to $10K challenge, whatever. This guy was on day 9. I followed one of his options of choosing Stefan Diggs 40 yards. Just 40 yards for one of the prime time best wide receivers in the game. 35.
Yeah, so a lot of ugly things. So let's.
It's a killer. It's really the bet killer right there. It's the kiss of death when I bet money on anything over $1.
You made a poor bet there. Anytime you're betting on a team that has the leads to get more rushing or receiving yards, when that team has the lead, it's just not going to happen in the second half.
But it's Travis Kelce.
I understand. Jacksonville's defense should be commended. They showed up that second half.
When I made the bet, he almost dropped the first 2 passes that were thrown to him. It's Travis Kelce. He doesn't drop the ball, and he dropped almost both of them. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense. The universe, the stars, everything was lining up, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that guy's hurt. Oh, that guy's hurt. What's happening with that? We put Tony Pollard in our DFS lineups. At least I did. Dude gets a high ankle sprain, doesn't come back for the whole game. I mean, these things, I jest about the whole situation, but I don't at the same time, because it is a magical occurrence. Just as I say that Patrick Mahomes is the most magical quarterback we have next to Tom Brady during his heyday. I don't going into this game coming up, a injured Mahomes against a very healthy Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow has a banged up offensive line. Kansas City, they do have guys that can get to Burrow.
Let's dive into that.
And I'm concerned about it, but
it's fair enough concern. And here's why I'd be concerned as a Kansas City's fan. That defensive line of Cincinnati is for real. If I was in Kansas City, I know that the game wouldn't have been at home had Buffalo won, but I really do think that Kansas City lost to both these two teams. Remember that Kansas City would have had better chance against the Bills, the Von Miller-less Bills, than they would against the Bengals in this upcoming matchup, despite the fact it would have been at a neutral site. Yeah. And my entire reason is that pass rush from Kansas City, it's not really there, but that pass rush from the Bengals is all over the place. Mm-hmm. And that really can be the game difference. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, that's why Tampa beat them in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Mahomes was running for his life. And I think that's what's going to happen here this upcoming game, because Josh Allen missed passes he doesn't normally miss. That first drive of the game, he missed Diggs on a sure 80-yard touchdown because Diggs had 10 yards on the guy, and he missed him because of the pass rush. He didn't miss him because he's not a good quarterback anymore.
He missed him because I bet on him. That's why he missed him.
Bob, it was 3 inches. I mean, that's all it was out of his grasp by just 3 inches.
Well, I do want to talk about Josh Allen for a minute, because the script, and we mentioned the script that the NFL is probably trying to turn out for the next couple of years. They want Mahomes, they want Allen in that AFC Championship game. But the issue is, and this is what it's swirling on social media, is that, I believe the Buffalo GM I read today came out and said, or said something in the vein of, hey, when are you going to get some help for Josh Allen more than just Diggs, right? Mm-hmm. And they compared it to Cincinnati, and he said, well, I would rather not suck. So, Buffalo's situation is so unique because they happen to get a quarterback in Josh Allen that is full of talent. He makes mistakes. Yes, he's one of the most turnover prone quarterbacks that is elite in the NFL today. And one of the things that, we keep saying about Buffalo is that if Buffalo only had a run game, well, Buffalo's offense though, it would definitely be better with a run game, but that's not how it's schemed at this point in time. And the primary concern that I have with Buffalo, especially coming out of this specific game, and we did throw out the line, Josh Allen under on rushing yards, and he did hit that under on the rushing yards. But one of the concerns that I have for Buffalo is that, and you and I have talked about this for a long time, you cannot. And it's one of the things to say also about Philadelphia, but to a lesser degree, you cannot have your quarterback be the highest rusher on your team.
Absolutely.
You can't have that. And the only reason it works to the degree that it does work for Buffalo is that Josh Allen is big-bodied. Josh Allen is built to take a hit, whereas a guy like Lamar Jackson, a guy like Justin Fields.
Yeah, those two are the keystone examples.
Guys like Murray and Jalen Hurts, they're not necessarily. Jalen Hurts, is
Jalen Hurts
a little
got some
bit better.
muscle on him. But the difference between Lamar,
but the other guys, no.
Lamar and Fields is they were their leading rushers, like Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Hurts and Murray are stat guys, but they were complements. Sanders led the Eagles in rushing yards.
Oh, that's what I'm saying to a lesser degree. Yeah.
This is the problem Lamar and Fields will have the remainder of their careers. Are you a running back or are you a quarterback? Neither one of them throws the ball particularly well. Fields throws it much better than Lamar, but still, it's not NFL capable after you run around. And the bottom line is that if I were in charge of Buffalo, yes, you throw a solid third-round pick, get probably a top 3 running back out of this draft, picking him in the 3rd round, it would do wonders. The bigger problem for Buffalo was their defense didn't show up. And you can make a very strong argument. Cincinnati's the most balanced team in the AFC, and I believe they are in terms of passing and rushing. But Mixon was getting 8 yards a carry anytime he wanted it.
So here's the funny thing, Joe, is that I fully. So, like I told you, the Bengals have swagger. The Bengals have a chip on their shoulder. They're the biggest, chippiest team I've ever seen to play in the last couple of years, actually. And some of it is warranted. Some of it isn't really because they're elite.
Some of it's their culture that they've had.
They're talented. They're a talented team, and this is the first time that we're actually seeing Cincinnati and saying, "Oh, snap! Like they're good. They're not just like fake about this. They're actually good." Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I loved about this game is that, regardless of if they knew it was going to snow or not, those white unis, there is. I saw a really funny meme that it was like this old grandma laying on a carpet wearing the same dress as the carpet and being like, "This is the Cincinnati Bengals right now." Like, I honestly think that half of that game, they couldn't see them because it was snowing so bad in that game.
It was running right into you at 80 miles an hour.
No, I'm saying defensively. No, I'm saying defensively. Like the Bengals defense was augmented by the fact that it was snowing and they were wearing white. Because can you imagine you're trying to make split-second decisions and you've got white snow, white uniforms running around the field?
That's got to be more difficult in the secondary.
That's what I'm saying. That's difficult,
but not on the run defense, and certainly not on the pass rush.
No, it's not. I'm saying in the secondary
is going to be.
But I'm saying in the secondary, and if you're and Buffalo's defense, that was prior to Damar Hamlin's injury, prior to the other 2 injuries that happened in this game, the Buffalo defense all year isn't as good as we wanted it to be, and it fell off the wagon late last year. And we saw this happening, and we were still saying, okay, it's fine. Buffalo has an elite defense. Buffalo is elite. Buffalo is elite. They're really not. And
Well,
it's
that's the
really not a
exact
good
same thing
defense.
that the Redskins had 2 years ago. They played a lot of horrible defenses on their schedule, so their defense padded numbers as the offense possessed the ball. And then once they started playing some good teams, it fell apart. So this year, Buffalo went from playing a horrible schedule in 2021 to now playing a good schedule in 2022, and the defense imploded to the degree that the schedule improved.
And that's the issue with the Buffalo Bills is that, and you saw this in that Buffalo-Minnesota game where both defenses suck.
Yes.
And it was the last team to score is what won that game. And Buffalo has a really good offense because of Josh Allen.
Yes.
But if you are asking Josh Allen to be Josh Allen and you're not going to support him with a defense, there's going to be a lot of issues in Buffalo in the upcoming years because Buffalo is built as a team. We are going to outscore you. And when you get into an outscoring match with Patrick Mahomes, you're going to lose. If you get into an outscoring match with, Justin Herbert, you might lose. If you're going to get into a scoring match with Joe Burrow, you're definitely going to lose because I believe tit for tat that Joe Burrow is a better passer, and I believe I said this last week, is a better passer than Mahomes. I think Mahomes is a better athlete, but Burrow's a better passer. And, Josh Allen can throw an amazing deep ball because that's what he's known for. And he's good with intermediate routes as well. But Joe Burrow's good with that too. I mean, the only thing that makes Josh Allen better is that he can run the ball.
Yeah, in terms of straight arm ability, the two are very comparable. The two are top 5 in the league. They can kind of draw a line after Herbert there where they fall off between Burrow and Allen there. But where Buffalo truly struggled was all of these elite, we're going to blow you out, great offensive teams you just went through. San Diego, Kansas City, Philly has this. They have great pass rushers on the other side. So when they get up on you by a touchdown or 10, they can get you a sack out of the game, and then boom, they're up by 17 and the game's over. Because let's face it, you get up by 17 in the second half in any NFL game, unless you're the Chargers, it's over. And the bottom line is that's how it should be. So Kansas City can send Jones at you and end the game. Bosa is, both of the San Francisco teams. And you just look at it and saying, that's what really hurt Buffalo was Von Miller going down. So if I'm looking at Buffalo as a GM right now, I'm not focused so much on the back end. I'm focusing on that pass rush. I need to fix however Cincinnati dismantled my offensive line. And I need to fix the fact we couldn't run the ball.
Well, Miami did it too. Miami did it too. Miami got 7 sacks.
Yes, they did. And a big reason for that was there was no balance. When you come out and say we're only running the ball 10% of the time, you might as well just say blitz us every play, pass rush. Don't even worry about the run. And it's very hard to effectively pass in the NFL without play action. That's part of the reason Minnesota and Philadelphia's offense were so good this year. It's hard to do play action, cover the middle of the field on a crosser whenever either J. Jeff or Devontae Smith is going across the middle of the field. They're fast. They catch the ball. They get a lot of yak. San Francisco's offense is built on this. But to be able to have play action, you need to first run the ball. And that is really Buffalo's number one offensive need moving forward. So speaking
of San Francisco, and I appreciate this more and more and more going into this, final 2 games of the season here, is what they did. And they said to themselves, this is our time. We are going to go out there and we are going to get the guy that is the guy. And we are going to play him, and we are going to take care of him, and we are going to spell him when we need to. And we're talking about Christian McCaffrey here. And we all know, everybody in the fantasy football world said he's going to go nuclear. Well, he was very, 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 very good, very borderline nuclear as it goes for the fantasy season. But I gotta say,
part of that is because he was stuck in Carolina. If he was in San Francisco all year, boom, that baby would have gone off.
No, this is why I say it was a really good move. And
it was a great move.
Even if it wasn't, even if it was just a player in the same vein as Christian McCaffrey, not necessarily him, is that San Francisco for the last 5 years has been running this average 2-back system. Is that I am going to play whatever running back is looking good at the time. He's not that great. He has talent, but I couldn't do the things that these running backs are doing. You couldn't do the things these running backs. So I'm not taking anything away. In terms of the
NFL caliber pull, they were middle 20s.
They're average, overall right?
Talent. Yeah.
I appreciate what they did and saying, okay, we're going to let and trade these average guys away, and we're going to go and get somebody elite. Devin Singletary is not a bad player. Devin Singletary is a fully capable NFL running back.
Yeah, but you'll never confuse it with elite.
No, James Cook is a fully capable NFL running back. Nyheim Hines is a good pass-catching running back. But if Buffalo just went out there and said, you know what? We're going to spend some money. We're going to go get Josh Jacobs this year.
That would have been the answer.
We're going to spend some money, or we're going to trade these guys, and we're going to go get Derrick Henry. Right? I'm just throwing names out there. I know it's not going to happen.
Henry doesn't fit their system. Josh Jacobs in Buffalo would have been a completely different outcome. And will Buffalo do that? I believe they'll do it through the draft. Although this is the team that was rumored to try to get McCaffrey in the offseason last year. They just didn't spend the first
draft. But for Buffalo, the draft isn't the answer when it comes to these players, is because your window to develop a guy, and we all talk about windows, right? Mm-hmm. What team's window? Right now, it is Cincinnati's window of opportunity, and Absolutely. we all know it. Kansas City's window of opportunity is a little bit wider. As long as Travis Kelce is there, and as long as Andy Reid is there, their window is as wide as it needs to be. There are many. Philadelphia, their window is wide, right? Mm-hmm. You have Jaguars, whose window is a little bit bigger too, because they're just at the beginning of their window and not towards the end. Buffalo seems to be a little bit towards the end of their window, and there's not time to develop a running back. That guy has to come in and play right away, and they need to go out and get somebody, because Josh Allen can win you a championship. He is elite. And if you don't, and Sean McDermott is a Hall of Fame coach. Yeah. And the fact that they cannot, like I saw something that was maybe what's actually happening is that we have the Brady Manning debate, but actually Manning is Joe Burrow, Mahomes is Brady, and Josh Allen is Phillip Rivers. And
he can make an argument for that right now.
It really seems like, you like to tout Josh Allen, and for obvious good reasons.
Yeah.
But it seems like, and people were going, no, Justin Herbert is obviously Phillip Rivers. And I'm like, okay. But the fact still remains is that we all talk about, anybody starting a podcast, or anybody on TikTok, or anybody on Twitter who has a microphone. We all say, hey, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, that's what we want to see. And that's what's probably going to happen for the next 5 years. But it hasn't even happened in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, he beat them during Buffalo beat them during the regular season, and that's what we have. So I also want to kind of point out a key point to why you're saying the window could be over. There are really, truly only 6 receivers in the NFL that you can build an offense 100% around and force it through. And Diggs is the 5th one on that list. The list being J-Jeff, Chase, Kupp, Higgins, Diggs, and the Devontae
I wouldn't say Higgins. I wouldn't say Higgins.
Absolutely can build a team around Higgins. This is why that window is going to end when they don't pay him. Higgins is one of the most talented receivers in the NFL. He doesn't get credit for it.
I think you're missing. I think you're missing Tyreek Hill sometimes too.
Tyreek Hill, you'll never be able to win a playoff game with. He'll never be around for it, especially with the way Daniels is built. Maybe Waddle, but probably not. Again, you cannot pull a boat with a sports car, and as long as they keep trying to do that with him, it will not work. Period. So, and then you go around the rest of the NFL. The rest of them are all just nice pieces, but you can't build an entire offense solely around even Metcalf. Metcalf would be the next one on the list you'd argue for. You can't build an offense just around Metcalf.
I mean, you could build an offense around Deebo.
Not really. He's not reliable enough.
I'm not saying
the Super Bowl with 9 wins.
No, what I'm saying is you can build an offense around him to use his talents, because you can put him in as a running back, you can put him in as a wide receiver, but his talent, he's not like Diggs, but you can still build a team around him, but he's just not like those top 5 guys.
You can't give Deebo 15 targets a game and think it's going to work out. That's what I mean by building a team around him. I
think you can. I think it's
a receiver.
I'm going to disagree with you that T. Higgins is in the top 5. I have seen so many.
He might be 6. He's swapping with Devontae Adams, but
I have seen so many games where T. Higgins has been blown off the map, and then I've equally seen games where he gets like 100 and some yards. I just don't. A guy like Devontae Adams, for example, there was 2 games this year, 3 games this year where he was held to like 12 yards or like 24 yards. And we blame Derek Carr and or David Carr. What's his name? Is it Derek Carr? Yeah, it's Derek Carr, right?
David Carr was the older brother.
Also, as a note, I did love David Carr in his first game because that was awesome. But
when he got sacked 5 million times.
Yeah. So anyway, but the fact is that you saw what the Green Bay Packers did with Devontae Adams. Then you saw what they did without Devontae Adams, and that was with a Hall of Fame quarterback, by the way.
Yeah, that's my point. He's clearly someone you could build around.
And when
it hits the end, it ends quick.
I don't see that with T. Higgins. I'm not saying that
he goes somewhere and he's the only weapon on the team.
I'm not saying that he's not a good wide receiver.
Right now. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
He's better than who?
Hopkins. He's better than Metcalf.
Well, he's younger too.
Well, that's my point. Is if you're going to build an offense, build a team around them.
Well, I'm not paying DeAndre Hopkins as much money. If he goes somewhere else, you aren't paying Hopkins as much money as you will be paying T. Higgins, is what I'm trying to tell you.
And my point is Cincinnati won't, and that's when he disappears. This Cincinnati window is going to implode.
No, because
Chase is great, and he is. They benefit so much from having a 3-headed monster.
Okay,
that
hold on.
Really can't compare. No other team has this.
No, let me harken back. Let me harken back to Mr. Ocho Cinco, Chad Johnson, and TJ Hushman-Zeta. Okay, those 2 wide receivers made Cincinnati look really, really good with Carson Palmer, with a couple other quarterbacks, whatever, right? Then you see who got traded from the team. Was it Hushman-Zeta or was it Ocho?
Both of them left. Hushman-Zeta left first. But my point is, Hushman-Zeta was never considered a top 10 receiver in the league. Higgins is.
See, I'm not saying that he's bad, but I do think that you're giving too much love to T. Higgins, and I don't think that he can be a number 1 wide receiver in the way that you think he can.
You put him on Cleveland right now, he'll put up top 5 numbers. I guarantee.
Amari Cooper is already there, and it's the same situation.
Cooper is not a number 1 receiver.
I disagree.
We're going to have lots of fights in the offseason.
Vehemently disagree.
We're going to have lots of fantasy fights in the offseason about that. But
I just want to break this down.
All right, break it down.
Okay, would a number 1 wide receiver? Okay, now granted, all right, I'm just going to take the games. Jamar Chase was out this year, at least at some point in time, correct? What games was he out?
Now you're asking me specific questions.
Yeah, I'm asking you specific questions to really.
It was in the
how long was Lamar Chase? He was hurt 4 to 6 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me look up on this draft whatever. Oh, that's weird. All right, so he was hurt October 16th, 2022. Okay, so he was expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. All right.
And he missed all the way until the wild card of the playoffs. So that would have been all the way until week 13. So that's like roughly week 8-ish, week 6-ish until week 14.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So here are the games in which we see T. Higgins as the number one wide receiver. And he was dealing with his own injuries at one point in time too, right? 5 for 93. No, that was before. 3 for 49, 1 touchdown, 7 for 60. Then his 2 big games, one against the Steelers, 9 for 148. I mean, it was the Steelers defense at the time without TJ Watt. So, yeah, there you go.
Still torching Micah though, but hey, right.
Tennessee, 7 for 114 and 1 touchdown. That's good.
Yeah.
Kansas City, 3 for 35 and a touchdown. 5 for 33, 1 touchdown. 8 for 128, 1 touchdown. And then 1 for 13, 1 for 7, 4 for 37, 3 for 28. Now,
one of those 1 reception games was Mixon's 5 touchdowns, though.
No.
And if you're running the ball that good, you should not hand the ball off.
Whatever game, when Mixon didn't score again until last week after that 5 touchdown game. Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is that elite wide receivers can be taken off the map by elite schemes, by elite talent on the other side.
Had it happen to him against the Giants in the playoffs.
So, is T. Higgins a player that could serve as the number one wide receiver? Absolutely. Is T. Higgins the guy that you think he is as a top 5? I don't think so. And I don't think he ever will be.
Top 5, he's number 6. Like I
top
have him
10,
again.
Top 10, top 15, absolutely.
Oh, he's
top 5? No way.
I mean, I mean, basically, I just have him ahead of Adams. Adams is the one you would pop in there instead of him. And then the other notables are Metcalf, and Metcalf's a notable. Hopkins is a notable. And
let's be serious here. If you do this by wins in a war setting, wins over replacement, right? Mm-hmm. Or wins against replacement or whatever.
J.Jeff and Kopp go off the charts on that.
Okay. Adams. If Adams weren't to play any game this year for the Raiders, do you think the Raiders would have actually won a game this year?
Well, they did win a game without him, so the answer is yes, because it happened. But to your point, his war is significant to that team. I mean, and that's what it will be for all of them. But we will save this more for the playoff offseason we have. I do want to dive into how I was 100% right, Bob. Dallas blew their load when they won that playoff game against Tom Brady, and they showed at the end of it that Dak imploded. There's no way around it. Dak imploded against the Niners, and they kind of looked like they were okay with it.
Well, I have a lot to say about that game. Number one, it was ugly. It was really bad on both sides of the ball for both teams, to be honest with you. The fact that Maher missed another kick this week was just... And then they trusted him to make another kick. I mean,
yeah, they sent him out for that field goal after he missed the extra point.
We always say you can't win games with field goals, and the only reason
with missed field goals.
The only reason that San Francisco won that game was the head work of Purdy, Coach Shanahan, and Christian McCaffrey. But they
dominated the fourth quarter on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, there was a long time in that game, though, where I was fairly confident in saying that Dallas was going to win that game.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's enough for San Francisco really all this year.
Considerable amount of time.
They come out bruising.
They didn't come out at all.
They just wear on you being beat down.
Well, the problem here is, Joe, is that they didn't come out at all, and neither team did. You're playing a guy like Dak Prescott, and you have a suffocating defense. Had Tony Pollard not come out of that game with that injury, we would be talking about, I think we would be talking about Dallas winning that game right now.
No.
Dude.
There's no way Dak was pulling a win out of that. Dak was not good.
Dak is never good. Dak is never good, dude. Like, there's been so many times where media or whatever want to christen Dak as, hey, he's not that bad, but he's not that good. And that's the main problem with the Cowboys at this point in time. They're not that bad, but they're not that good. And they could get to the playoffs, but they're not going to make any noise. And it's teams like that.
It's a weak conference, too.
It's teams like that where I say to myself, okay, by mid-season, we were talking about a couple of teams, and we were like, oh, are they going to get to the playoffs? Oh, are they going to get to the playoffs? Are they going to? We knew who was winning prior to week 8.
With the exception of the Minnesota loss to the Giants, we knew how the NFC playoffs were going.
You knew how the AFC was going to.
Is that Giants lost in the second round instead of Minnesota losing the second round. The playoffs were going this direction. It was going to be San Francisco goes to Philadelphia. It's
a shame we didn't have any money on it. It's a shame we didn't have any money on it, because that would have been people had. I mean, well, you have it, but I'm saying, like, somebody had the Eagles and Niners as the NFC Championship game, and the
Eagles winning it.
Yeah, and that's that's a really good payout there. But even on the AFC side, you knew that it was either going to be.
Well, there are 4 options on the AFC side. There was like 2 on the NFC.
You knew it was going to be Mahomes and Buffalo. You either knew it was going to be Kansas City and Buffalo, Kansas City and Bengals, or Buffalo and the Bengals by week 8, week 9.
San Diego was making a very good push with their winning streak in December for the first time forever to be relevant. Yeah,
but the way that they play, dude, you knew that they weren't going to make it.
That's coaching. That's a different problem.
I mean, that's just they implode, and they do it every year. Back to the point though, is that Dallas. I mean, this is the first game in 6-7 games where the Niners didn't score 30 points, and they weren't really even moving the ball the whole game really, really well. And it was a really lucky drive when Christian McCaffrey scored. It was really, we talk about the yak, and it was.
Are you talking about the fourth quarter touchdown or his first touchdown?
The fourth quarter one.
Okay.
Is that, I look at it and I say to myself, okay, like this Dallas, if Dallas would have had a more capable quarterback, if Dallas would have had not a running back that simply, falls for 2 yards, that game would have been a lot different. And I don't want to be a Dallas truther, and I don't want to be a Dallas apologist, and I don't want to sound like that's what I'm trying to do, because I'm not. I'm just trying to say that San Francisco is going to get their lights blown out by the Eagles if they play the way. It
might be over by halftime.
If they play the way that they played against Dallas, the Eagles are going to totally obliterate them. The game against the New York Giants was an abomination. I still believe that Brian Daboll is an incredible coach for what he did for the New York Giants this year.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not taking anything away, but you cannot fall that flat in a playoff game against a team that you've already played
the
twice.
Exact same thing happened, though. The Cowboys and the Giants both had first playoff win in forever. It feels so good, way above expectations. Well, at least in the Giants' case, and coming out flat. I mean, that was the end of the day result, and I definitely trust Dable way more moving forward than McCarthy. There's no doubt about that.
But they didn't even come out flat. Like,
no, they flat out just got beat. I mean, there's no way around that. Philly flat out beat them, and you play that game 5,000 times, Philly's winning all 5,000. There was no scenario that night, no matter how many times you would simulate that on Madden, that Philly wasn't winning that game.
Philly went up 28-0 in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a defense that's built like the Chargers defense. This is not a defense that's built to give up a comeback. And the Giants' offense, to be honest with you,
sack you and pick you off.
Yeah, and the Giants' offense, to be honest, and we all know this, is not built for a comeback like that either.
Not at all. No. Well, neither is the Lakers, and that's really the fear with this.
Exactly.
Because first off, to end the point of the Cowboys, franchise quarterback paid like a franchise quarterback, loses to the last pick in the draft. Running back who's paid throughout his life, third pick overall, can't get 3 yards. That really, at the end of the day, sums up where the Cowboys are at and their problems moving forward. Those are 2 absolutely massive commitments that they have made. Yeah. They paid them both. You can't get rid of Dak at this point. He is the face of your team. He's the face of the state. You're stuck with him. He better improve, or this is going to be 5 years of turning over coaches.
So the 3 of the most important players on Dallas at this point in time right now that they need to find a way to do whatever they can to figure out what to keep these players on that team. The number 1 is Micah Parsons.
Yeah, but he's on a rookie contract. He's there for 3 more years.
Yeah, but still, you need to find ways to get him to be his best self. Because he's an absolute game disruptor.
Dude,
but
he might still end up being Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, he had a hell of a year.
The other one that I think is really good is Van Der Esch. I think Van Der Esch is really good on defense as well. And the other guy's
go last year.
The other guy's
1-year deal.
Yeah, the other guy's CeeDee Lamb. And getting the ball and getting these are the playmakers on the team. Diggs is a playmaker too, but he makes a lot of mistakes and he's beatable and whatever. But when you build a team and when you're thinking about, hey, what do we do really well? What can we take out of this year? What did we do that was really good? Well, towards the end of the season, your defense sucked, real bad. And, you gave up a lot of points to the Jags. You let the Jags come back. You let up a lot of points to Detroit. You let up a lot of points to Philadelphia. You couldn't really do anything. You couldn't really stop anything. So, okay, I'm looking at Micah Parsons and I'm saying, okay, they want to try him at defensive end. Now he's the linebacker. Just figure it out. Put him in a position that he's best in.
To get a second pass
figure it out.
That's what they should do.
Figure it out, because you look at the elite defensive players in the league. They've got their position. They know exactly what they're doing.
He's really the only one who doesn't.
TJ Watt knows exactly what he's doing. The Bosas know exactly what they're doing. And let's just take to another example, Dre Greenlaw from San Francisco. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's not an elite level talent like Micah Parsons is, but he's disrupting everything on the field. You look at these hybrid guys. I love them for fantasy. Don't get me wrong. I love having Micah Parsons because I can put him in my defensive line slot and pick up an extra linebacker and have a bunch of stuff happening there. But you look at the elite of the elite at the position, and Micah Parsons is jumping out at the map at you and saying, "Hey, coach, what am I doing today?" Well, if he had one job and you said, "Today, Micah, this is your job, and for the next 3 years, this is your job. Get good at it." That would be a totally different team.
It's one of the hardest skill sets to find on an NFL field, people who can consistently sack the quarterback. There's really only 5 of them in the league. And if you have them, you don't take him off the field yourself by having him do other things. And
doesn't make any sense.
I mean, you can say whatever you want about Dan Quinn being the greatest defensive mind, which he's not. The only one who's more overrated than him is the one that's in Kansas City. At the end of the day, Parsons should just be a pass rusher. He's an amazing talent, but so is every other pass rusher. You think Joey Bosa could play middle linebacker? He absolutely could. But it's not as good for your defense to have him roaming in the middle of the field as it is to putting quarterbacks on their back. That's the most powerful thing you could do on defense, short of a turnover. And it's the most consistent thing you can do on defense is sack the quarterback.
And and Brock Purdy is so sackable. So sackable. And and we're going to talk about this in the offseason too, is the dilemma that San Francisco is going to be in if they win the Super Bowl.
They have no dilemma.
They're already committed to
Super Bowl. They have to be.
Right.
Go to the NFC Championship discussion. We're going to have this fight over, but to me, they're committed to Purdy. You might as well figure what you can get for Lance. And see if someone like the Colts are interested. That's how I would treat it. And go from there.
That line in that game this upcoming week is, I haven't looked at it, but I feel like it's going to be the Eagles favored by like 6.5. But that probably is going to go up.
I can almost tell you without a doubt, I will be on the game spread or the game special that says Hassan Reddick gets the sack and the Eagles win the game.
I'm actually going to look that up while you chit chat with the audience for a minute.
We covered the games here with first half of the show. We're going to hit the ad break here, and then we'll be right back for the second half.
Ad break,
baby.
This episode is sponsored by the podcast Father and Joe. Father and Joe aims to bring individuals into a better relationship with God. Each episode discusses an element of the human experience that we all can relate to, as well as questions about faith. What are indulgences? What's going on with purgatory? Why can I mentally grasp the concept of God, but I don't feel him in my heart? During each episode of Father and Joe, we are invited to enhance our relationships, and in doing so, we will improve ourselves and society. Download Father and Joe every Tuesday. So we thank you for watching this episode of Local Football Flavor. We know there's a lot of different things you can be doing with your time, so we appreciate you either listening or watching us in whatever way you're digesting us here today. So we here at the episode want to try to request helping us out in one of three different ways, because all three ways will help us. First is the analytics. If you can either click like or subscribe on whatever platform you're watching us on, it makes a tremendous difference, as those algorithms kind of control what our popularity will be, and you, our listeners, are the only one that can help us win those analytics games. So by clicking like and subscribe, it makes a tremendous deal for us, and leaving reviews and comments help tremendously as well. So that's what we ask as you as a listener to do. If you're interested in the show, you'd like to be a guest on the program, please reach out to us. We love talking to people, and it's our conversation about your favorite team, letting people know what's really going on that the national media normally misses. So we would love to have those conversations with you. And the third way is the sponsors. As you've noticed, we've already had some sponsors reach out to us here. You can see one down here in the corner. You can easily be in the scroller along the bottom, having your own personal message, as well as all other fun things like controlling the jersey I'm going to wear, or that little teddy bear behind me can be one of your team logos things. You can make me wear a stupid cheese head if that's what you want to do. All of those things are available by reaching out to us at localfootballflavor@gmail.com. We thank you guys very much for being a part of the show. And now let's resume to today's episode.
So Bobby,
Joe,
sorry.
I looked it up. So the game spreads are actually really, really low. The Eagles are only favored by 2.5. 2.5. And the Bengals game is basically a pick'em. Kansas City's getting +1 in that game.
Kansas City's a home dog in the playoffs. Ooh.
Well, the money line is, they're both even money, but here's the fun thing is that your Hassan Reddick bet is the second bet in the game specials. Hassan Reddick to record a sack and Philadelphia Eagles to win is +155.
I'll be on this.
+155. There is no other Eagles sack bets up on the board.
It will come up by the time we do our betting show on Friday, Bob. But I'm just letting people know where my mind's at right now. And with that being said, so we have a couple of different things here in Championship Weekend. In preparation of the Super Bowl, I wanted our DFS today to be the let's just pick one game apiece and see how it shakes out. So with that being said, let's take a look at this first game here, the NFC Championship.
Well, I mean, with it being all said and done here, you can't pick every single player from the same team, which kind of sucks.
You cannot, but you also have the multiplier effect, which makes these things real. So let's start with the difference here. So you still get the same amount of money; it's the same pool, but for the way that this
the dollar amount has gone up.
Yep, and you select your MVP first, and your MVP is the most expensive player on your team, but he also is giving you double value. So, with that being said, here, who you feeling, Bob?
It's really tough. This game to me though, like I said, I think that Philadelphia obliterates them, but I don't think it's on the scoreboard. I think it's just in dominant gameplay. I think that San Francisco very well could put up a goose egg here. Maybe 10 points at the most, because we're not looking at a bad defense here from San Francisco. We are looking at a defense that is considered an elite defense. It's nothing like the Giants defense. Giants had Kayvon Thibodeau. The Giants also had who's their young guy in the middle there. Regardless, they're not the same defense as Yeah. Well, no, he retired, man. The fact that the Eagles did this in one quarter or one half goes to show you a lot about how good and efficient the Eagles' offense is. But but when you look at it, the Niners' defense is equally as efficient on the field.
Niners' defense is very good.
And so when you look at the MVP, you're tempted to take Jalen Hurts because he's going to get you double points. Typically, when you do these lineups, it's not a bad idea to take a quarterback as the MVP because he's going to have the ball in his hands the most. And what player in this game is going to have the ball in his hands the most? Well, that's Jalen Hurts. The only problem is that it really sets you up to be putting kickers in your lineup. And you got to ask yourself, is this a kicker day? Because the kickers are also included here and they are decently priced. So I think you can't put anybody else other than Jalen Hurts in your MVP slot because he's going to have the ball the most times in his hand.
Hard to fight the logic. So we click over here to the Eddie Flex.
I mean, okay, so you can ask yourself, okay, Brock Purdy finally against a defense that is, maybe one to these season practice, it's you gotta ask yourself, okay, it's saying right there that the Eagles' run defense is considered 17th, and you have teams that can beat the Eagles in the run. Christian McCaffrey is going to have the ball. Can you make a lineup with Christian McCaffrey and Jalen Hurts? Probably not. You got to take either one or the other. You can't fit both in because you're going to be left with a very scrubbish lineup at the bottom. But I am half tempted to do that because, I mean,
let's do it, Bob.
Seriously.
Let's see what we can build out here. Still got 9-1 for only 3 slots left.
Now, that takes out the rest of these guys that are in that 12 slot.
Be under 10 for a while.
Now,
you go with
here,
the local football flavor man of lore, Brandon Ayuk.
You're sitting here and you ask yourself, okay, which one of these defenses could do something? And at the price point, and this is why I say if you take these two elite level talents, you're dealing with kickers and defenses. Because if you go past Ayuk and you go down past Robbie Gould, yeah.
Yeah, so here's a very frustrating thing with the Eagles. They run 2 backup running backs. Like, is this going to be a Boston Scott day or a Gainwell day? Well, they're not playing the Giants, so it's probably Gainwell, but, who's to say?
Yeah, so, Robbie Gould has been crushing it, but I don't know what the weather in Philadelphia is going to be. The weather can be good. It could be really terrible. And so, like I said, taking the guys that are going to have the balls, the football in their hands, Christian McCaffrey's going to have it. Jalen Hurts is going to have it. And the Philadelphia Eagles defense is going to have it. And the question you have to ask yourself here is, which of these defenses at the price is going to have the chance to get some turnovers, is going to have the chance to make some plays? Because there's only one other 10 grand player that you can put in your lineup. And then the rest, you can probably figure it out because you got like 17 grand. So if you go up for a minute, the guy that I do want to put in this lineup is Dallas Goedert.
All right.
Dallas Goedert, I mean, he hasn't really blown us away a lot. But, I mean, Dalton Schultz got a touchdown. Tight ends have been scoring in these playoffs. Tight ends have been doing really well. If you click on Dallas Goedert just to see, what his production has been in the last several weeks,
he's been picking it up.
It's good. It's perfectly acceptable. The touchdowns are definitely nice. His yardage seems to be average. And if he gets,
and remember, he was out most of December. He was, last game was the 14th of November. Then he was out all the way until Christmas Eve. Yeah. So since the injury, since his return, he has steadily been picking it up.
So the question is, in this scenario, is Dallas Goedert, because we know what San Francisco's secondary is like, and we know that they can start to clamp down. But we also know that Fred Warner is the best defensive player outside of Bosa on that team. So if you're stacking Goedert against Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, is Goedert going to be able to perform to the degree that, say, maybe, can Kittle do better against the linebackers of Philadelphia? You see what I'm saying here? So
I completely understand the direction you're going with.
I like Goedert, but what's Fred Warner going to be doing in this game, if not trying to stop Dallas Goedert and spy Jalen Hurts almost the entire game? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Shanahan said, Greenlaw and Warner, you're taking Hurts out of this game. You are taking his legs out of this game.
Is going to be whoever, and both will be at half the time. Whoever's the end defender on their read option needs to hit the quarterback instead of standing there like a confused player, like normally happens against the Eagles. And San Francisco sees a team in their division, Murray, do this all the time, and they hit Murray. Them and Seattle do it very well. So the best way to shut down Philadelphia's offense from a schematical standpoint is when they're doing their read option where Hurts is standing in the backfield choosing to give the ball to Sanders or to keep himself, is to just hit Hurts no matter what. And will they do it? Who's to say? But that's, if you want to beat Philly, that's how you do it.
And I feel like if that's going to be the plays, then Dallas Goedert is going to be available. Absolutely. And so that's kind of the reason why behind this. Like, if I wasn't just picking this game, I wouldn't have Hurts in my lineup, because I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a tough game. The other player here that, like I said, you're looking at $1,750 to spend on two more players. You could go 11 grand.
9.5, basically.
You could go 11. You could go 11 and 6, and see what you can get, and just see what happens.
Pascal.
So go up. I mean, this is the issue. You could take Philly's defense at 9, and then you're dealing with another 8, which would probably be San Francisco's defense, which you really probably don't want to do. So you might want to think, how has the secondary of the Eagles been doing? Ayuk hasn't been performing terribly. Let's go with Ayuk at 9.5. That is not a bad play at all. And then you're sitting there and you're going, okay, I got 8. What's going to happen here? Well, Gainwell's there. I could go with Gainwell.
Gainwell falls in the end zone sometimes. So does Scott.
And that's kind of the play. So the question here is, do you think that Ayuk, a combination of Ayuk and Gainwell, could outscore a combination of the Eagles defense and the Niners defense? This is the question,
Bob. This is decision time. We need an answer from you.
So I think I'm going to stick with Ayuk, and I think that we're just going to throw out there Gainwell and see what happens.
Fair enough. There is Bob's lineup, everybody. I am going a different direction in this game. I'm going a different direction for a lot of reasons here. First, I know mathematically you have to take the quarterback as your guy. I mean, if you try to take a wide receiver, you don't get a benefit because there's not an extra cost of putting them as your MVP. So with that being said, I don't see a tremendous difference in this one between Purdy and Hurts. And the reason is I think that this is going to be a game that Purdy is going to have to throw his way into it. And Purdy doesn't normally make mistakes. So
that we've seen yet.
True. Very true. And this is the hardest furnace he will be tested in no matter what. And this, quite frankly, could be the pick that makes my mistake. But it's mostly I want that extra $3,000 that I don't want to spend on Hurts is the fundamental fact there. So that being said, there's no way I'm not putting Devontae Smith in. He has been absolutely lighting up these playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And you also can't say you're going on the Purdy train and not taking Deebo.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I look at this here going, okay, I got 2 picks left. And I got 2,100.
Mm-hmm.
I can make some fun here, right? So that could be like a Kittle play, not touching Ayuk. Or maybe we can figure out a way to hedge the bet here and get A.J. Brown in there. Check that. I don't want A.J. Brown. And get Sanders in there. Because I do think Sanders is going to run like crazy on them.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
look to see what we got left. Well, now we're sitting here with Goddard. Don't want Ayuk. I don't have extra money. Because the guy I really want, and I think he's going to put up probably the 3rd most points in this game, but no one ever respects the position, is my boy Robbie Gould.
Well, like I said earlier,
$2,000 left.
I don't disagree that Robbie Gould will have a good game. The question is that you have a game that in Philadelphia, the East Coast weather recently has been pretty bad.
Oh,
what's
yeah. No doubt about
going to happen there?
On Friday, so
if
it's anything like right now, it's super not fun outside. It is super shitty rain with some freezing elements. So not good kicking conditions. But I also look on the other hand here of, okay, how can I build a lineup then with 10.5 and make this work? So,
you could very well take Purdy out, not start him, and put McCaffrey in and have Robbie Gould as well, if that's what you really want to do. You don't have to take the quarterback. The quarterback is just often in these things the guy that
put up more. No, I believe Purdy will put up the 2nd most points in this game, if not the most. The question is, can my combination of Deebo and Devontae make up for those who are going to have Hurts? But I don't think the difference is going to be that crazy. If I take out Sanders, let's see. If I put Gould in the spot here, because I think Robbie Gould is just crazy value for where he's at.
Oh, yeah. The kickers always are. You'll notice that kickers are always priced at this price point.
I'm 500 away. 500 away, Bob. The other thing is I have seen Robbie Gould kick 4 field goals in each of their playoff games.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
He is the reason me and you are 4 of the top 5 spots in McGowan's poll, because Robbie Gould is showing up, and there's no doubt about that. And when we look at the other one, I had to have missed him. Where's Philly's kicker?
Jake Elliott he's higher than Robbie Gould.
Oh, he is. Correction. I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
I figured he'd be cheaper just because Gould's been tearing it up. So, of course, that being said, so is Elliott.
So the weather in Philadelphia looks clear. The weather in Philadelphia looks clear, and so
you know what? I'm going to do that because
two
good defenses end up making a lot of punts. That's just a fact that happens.
So you're sitting there with $4,000 extra dollars.
I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. I feel a little dirty with that.
I mean, if it hits, it hits. It doesn't matter if you like it or not.
No, the
if
point
it hits,
is I
it
can
hits.
afford it. I'm putting Hurts in. I built this whole lineup didn't think I'd be able to afford Hurts. But since I can, I'm putting Hurts in. I have no fear about Hurts in the pressure cooker of San Francisco's defense.
Yeah, I mean, it seems undeniable that points are going to be scored via field goal in this game.
Yeah, I'm hedging my bet.
It's not bad. I mean, I'd do the same thing. I'd consider absolutely the same thing with Robbie Gould. I mean, Robbie Gould, Brandon Ayuk, same price or around the same price. I mean, it's like whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. All right, off to the second game here, your AFC Championship. Let's go to the cold and blustery Kansas City.
So, going against conventional wisdom.
Who you got in the game? We'll cover that in the betting part. We'll cover that on Friday.
Going against conventional wisdom here, I'm putting Travis Kelce in the MVP slot.
Hard to fight it.
I mean, the dude could go off for... I mean, regardless of which quarterback is throwing him the ball, he's catching the ball.
Yeah.
And it's not even funny. And doubling his points, and for the same reason we said you want to double the points of the players that are going to get the ball and have the ball in their hands a lot. Yeah, it seems contradictory to say, like, hey, why'd you go Jalen Hurts in the last lineup and you're not going Joe Burrow in this lineup? Well, Kelce is special. And... Yes.
Kelce's their whole offense. I mean, let's just.
And as we established a couple weeks ago when we were reviewing fantasy football stuff, is that even in a game where Patrick Mahomes threw 4 touchdowns and 3 of them were caught by Travis Kelce, Travis Kelce still scored more points than Patrick Mahomes, and to not have him in your MVP slot seems kind of remiss. The other guy
but I get why you are.
The other guy in this game that I'm putting in my lineup is Joe Mixon. He is getting the ball. The weather could be bad. It could be blustery. It could be windy. It could be snowy. And Joe Mixon proved to me last week that they haven't given up on him, and that he can still move the rock. The question is whether. I don't think the game script will write him off because of the Mahomes injury, and I don't think that Joe Burrow will write him off at all. So I think that it is hard to not put Joe Mixon in this lineup. Alternately, I think another player, and whatever it's going to be, I think you got to put Pacheco in the lineup. I really do at his 10-5. Pacheco in the lineup really offers you consistency. And unlike with the last lineup, it seems, like I said, it seems contradictory to not put in either of these quarterbacks. But in this game specifically, there feels like there is a decent amount of offensive talent pieces that are priced at a good price point. Whereas, when you look at Philadelphia, you have, similar to what's, when you look at Philadelphia, you have their number 1 and number 2 wide receiver, both priced, and we can go back and look at this again, both priced ahead of T. Higgins. which is interesting to me, just from a value standpoint at this point in time, because that tells me that the other offensive players that we're dealing with are much worse than what we're dealing with here for Kansas City and for Cincinnati. So going down this list, another guy that, it is what it is, but what's happening? What's happening with Juju? I mean, not like, come on, like 9-5, like pull him up and see what he did last game. I know he caught a ball. But I mean, come on, like when are you going to
diminishing targets every game?
When are you going to get that guy involved? I mean, it drives me nuts. It makes no sense at all. He's talented, and he's talented enough to be in the NFL.
Well, obviously, but I mean relative to that receiving core.
So one of the guys, the guy that I'm actually looking for on this list is Marquise Valdez-Scantling. And and everybody who watches knows that you and I love Marquise Valdez-Scantling for no obvious reason other than his name is Marquise Valdez-Scantling.
I love him because he's always cheap.
And he's always cheap. He always finds a way to be on Patrick Mahomes' good side. And why not? The guy can play. He's fast. He can catch the ball, and that's what we want. And so if you go up to the anytime flex now, and we look to see and we say, hey, how are you gonna fill up this lineup here? You got 16,000. You can still get a lot of good guys. So the question is, who am I gonna get? Is it Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase? And
these are the questions.
It's really a toss-up for me, at least, because, like I said to you about Travis Kelce, is Joe Burrow is not running the ball. Like I said about Jalen Hurts, the reason Jalen Hurts is my MVP is because if he does somehow get out of the spies and the protection of San Francisco, he can make things happen with his legs. Neither of these two quarterbacks are going to blow you off the charts in terms of their rushing abilities, particularly now with Patrick Mahomes' injury. I don't see that as being even a threat or even an option with their franchise talented quarterback. And Joey B, he could put up those 4 touchdowns. Where are those 4 touchdowns going to go? Are they going to go to Higgins? Are they going to go to Chase? Chase is going to get blanketed in this game by coverage. It's going to happen. It doesn't matter. He's elite. Stick him in the lineup. We'll take $2,000 extra to the bank and just wait to cash it.
Fair enough. Well, mine, as I said, will be a little bit different. I'm starting with Chase as my MVP. He got everything you just said about Kelce is true. That being said, I'm doubling down with Burrow, and Higgins is going to give himself some love. Now we're in a spot where, okay, we just went with Cincinnati's big dog. Let's figure out how much money we can make happen here on the back end. So we're obviously going to need someone pretty cheap. And for me in this game, I see it being a game where, who's getting the ball? Aside from obviously Kelce, I can't afford Kelce. But who's the other target? Toomey got targeted 7 times last week.
Oh no, Tony got his speed matched up really well with what they needed to do.
There's a name I gotta look for right down here. With that pelvis injury, you always gotta wonder when he's coming back. But Hartman, when he's out there, is insane. I have to believe that he's not coming back in this game, but that's why I'm going to pass on him. But for looking down the road, him as a fantasy guy next year, keep your eyes on a swivel for him.
Yeah, if he does come back, I mean, Hardman is the play over Marquise Valdez-Scantling. But
Hardman is the play, period, as the number 2 receiver for Kansas City if he comes back. That being said, I'm sitting here. Who am I going to try to pick? Who am I going to try to balance this line out with? Because I went so crazy heavy early, I don't got enough for Pacheco. So do I give up on Toomey just punt on the position essentially, and then go say, hey, let's take all three of them. Let's take all three of the pass catchers.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can do that.
And then finish this thing out with Pacheco.
Oh, you can do it.
Save changes, lineup official. Give me the three pass catchers of the Bengals.
I mean,
this game is not gonna be close. They cannot stop the pass and save their lives. Yes, Mixon is gonna get his, and I couldn't afford it. That's life. This game ain't gonna be close, y'all.
It seems like a sin to not take Travis Kelce in a game where Travis Kelce is playing, though.
While I 100% understand where you're coming from, Bob, I am not fighting this. I am telling you outright how I feel. So, Bob, why don't we give it a chance here to give a quick recap of your people, your first lineup, why you took them, who you took, and we'll turn to short into this.
All right, so in this game, you have two really incredible defenses. In this game, I think the last team that I think that Philly is going to be dominant. I don't think it's going to show up in the scoreboard as much as we saw in that Giants game last week. But I am taking Hurts as my MVP strictly because the ball is going to run through Jalen Hurts, literally, physically, metaphysically. It doesn't matter. Jalen Hurts is the offense. And it is, it would be a travesty to not have him in your lineup. Likewise, Christian McCaffrey, for the same reasons you mentioned, Brock Purdy. I think they're going to lean a little bit more heavily on Christian McCaffrey in this game. He proves that he can get touchdowns. Touchdowns win you these things. It's important. Dallas Goedert, again, I think he provides you a really good option as a check down valve against a really stellar San Francisco defense. Ayuk, if the Niners are going to score, the ball has to go to Ayuk downfield. There is a weakness back there with some injuries and stuff for Philadelphia. If Brock Purdy can expose that, this game will be a little bit closer than people will want it to be. And then, Gainwell just because I needed a spot. But, it's not the Giants, so it's not going to be Boston Scott.
Perfect. We'll turn that into a short for everyone, and we're going to do this with all four of the lineups. So now I'm going to do mine for my lineup. My lineup here of the Niners, Eagles. Again, Hurts, he's just going to have the ball. He's going to dominate. I see San Francisco getting torched in the air, and Devontae Smith has somehow stepped ahead of A.J. Brown in terms of putting up the fantasy points. In terms of player performance, I still think Brown's the better player, but we got to look at the numbers whenever we're talking about here. Deebo's getting the ball forced to him. Can't say no to that. I see Deebo being blanketed by Slay. But even with that being said, you can't not give the ball to Deebo. And because I spent so much money on the three studs, we're going with double up kickers. I'm going for the gold, and I'm going for the win.
Oh, nice. I like that. Going for the gold. That was nice.
All right, Bob.
Did you mean to do that?
AFC Championship.
So the MVP, in my mind, the MVP of the entire league to a degree is Travis Kelce. No one can do what he's doing. He can do it with Chad Henne. He could do it with Patrick Mahomes. He could do it with Derek Carr. He could have done it with David Carr. He could do it literally with anybody. And you would not see a precipitous drop-off in his production in the slightest. The ball is forced to him. He is the playmaker on that team other than Patrick Mahomes. And he could go for 3 touchdowns. I see this game as being a back and forth, no matter who's starting at quarterback for Kansas City. Joe Mixon, they didn't give up on Joe Mixon, after his 5 touchdown performance, but he hadn't scored another touchdown until last week. In a windy, snowy potential game here, script will favor Joe Mixon, particularly if they end up getting the lead in that game. It will favor Joe Mixon. And likewise, whoever gets the lead in this game and wants to keep it, well, you gotta run the ball. Pacheco is stellar. Joe Mixon is stellar. I think taking both of them in a game where it could be back and forth, but if it is a blowout on either side, you're running the ball. Marquise Valdez-Scantling, He's cheap. He's good. MVS. Can't say nothing bad about the guy. And then, you go back to the elite level talent, put him down low. Jamar Chase easily could be the MVP in this lineup as well. But I think Travis Kelce just gives you just way too much, way too many options. The guy, he went off for 9 catches, 98 yards and a touchdown last week. He's had 3. Now that I talked him up, don't put him in your lineups, guys. Don't put him in your lineups.
For my AFC Championship, I am going with Jamar Chase as the big dog. Everything that goes through them flows through Chase. And as you can see from my lineup, also having Burrow, Higgins, and Boyd, I really don't have any respect for the Kansas City pass defense. I see that this being a torch 'em up kind of game. Not necessarily a lot of deep bombs, but a lot of receptions, a lot of checkdowns. And while Mixon will get his, I flat out could not afford him. So I went with Pacheco because he was the best player left at the 10.5. I would love to have had Mixon, but I can't have the two big dogs of Higgins and Chase and afford Mixon. So I think overall it's going to be a great game that's going to be gold and black, or red and black, or whatever color the Bengals actually are.
I want to point out that if you do the both games, if you go and do both games as your DFS, and I just misplaced my phone, I guess, you can totally build a lineup with Joe Burrow, Deebo Samuel, Isaiah Pacheco, Joe Mixon. The whole gang is there, and the DFS construction of your lineup is with Cincinnati as the defense, because Cincinnati's priced at like 3,000 when you take both games. And it's just, I don't know. I think I don't want to. I have high hopes. I want to say Cincinnati's going to win that game. I want to say that the Eagles are going to win that game. I want to see Eagles Bengals in the Super Bowl. I'd be really happy if that happened. I would also be happy if the Eagles obliterated Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I would also be happy if Brock Purdy ended up winning the Super Bowl too, to just be like, hey, Mahomes, screw you. I'm okay. You're okay
with any scenario that doesn't involve Mahomes winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Bob.
So we'll see this week. This week we could be really happy. This week, we could be really sad, depending on what happens. I'm just glad Dallas didn't try to, because they would have lost it anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's kind of true. So with this being said, we're obviously going to be doing our betting show here on Friday, and we don't want to give everything away with that, but we've kind of tipped our hands with the initial feelings of the fact I just took every pass catcher that's going to be wearing a Bengals jersey in that game.
Yeah,
I do want to spend just a half a minute here on when we look at the units that are going to be on the field, the 8 units on the field. In ideal conditions, or just as they're constructed, I guess is the better way to say it.
Well, hold on. It's funny. It's funny you say out of the 8 units that are on the field here, because the 2 best defenses are playing together, and the 2 best offenses are playing against each other, in my mind. Okay, the Eagles have a phenomenal offense, but
yes, they do.
I simply can't say that Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, and A.J. Brown are better than Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce as a unit. I'm sorry. I get it. I understand it. I understand why you put them there.
The reason I'm saying this is because he can't walk. If he was, I'm considering
he can't walk, and he can't walk, but he still beat the Jaguars. And you had so much on the Jaguars, man. He still beat the Jaguars, and he couldn't walk.
I hope he didn't sell his soul like Brady did.
He made a Faustian deal, dude. He made a Faustian deal. There is no way that he should have been back on that field. If that was a regular season game, he wouldn't have came back out.
Oh, not at all. Every regular season game won't be playing this week either.
We're gonna hear in the offseason that he had cartilage tears, and that they essentially I don't know if you've ever seen Repo Men, This is the second time I've talked about this movie today, actually.
What is that, Bob?
Repo Man. Hi, Joey. Repo Man is a movie starring Forrest Whitaker, where the whole idea is that in a dystopian future society, you basically pay the hospital if your organs fail at all. You basically pay the hospital for these synthetic organs, and you can't basically pay them off. And so, what Forrest Whitaker's job and the main, I can't remember the main actor's name. What their job is to repossess the organs. So they take them directly out.
To murder you via organ removal.
Oh yeah. They take them directly out of you. Well, Forrest Whitaker and the main actor are on like a boat with like, it's like a smuggler's boat. And the main character ends up getting shot. And so, flash forward to a hospital bed, he has now one of the synthetic organs. Well, he doesn't make enough money as a repo man to get the organ to pay for it. So Forrest Whitaker, his friend, ends up chasing him down the whole movie. And there's like the movie goes back and forth. It's a good action thriller. But the reason I bring that up is because that's what happened to Patrick Mahomes on the sideline the other night, is because they put somebody else's, like, how everybody was like in Pittsburgh was like, oh, I'd give my left heart for TJ Watt. I would give my bicep. I would give everybody else's bicep in my family for TJ Watt to come back. Like, I would give so much for somebody. They performed like emergency surgery on the sideline, and somebody from the stands was like, "Here's my leg, Patrick. Take it. You need it more than I do." Dude, I'm telling you, like, you're going to see in the offseason that his leg, his knee, something is messed up, because there's no way he should have came back in that game. But he is a phenomenal one-legged quarterback.
Talking about other phenomenal one-legged quarterbacks, and not to go on a complete tangent.
Joe Theismann is an incredible one-legged quarterback.
The people who are selling the sandals for the most comfiest sandals in the world hired Alex Smith, and that commercial shows every single one of his scars and how he's all walking around all lovey-dovey in these comfy sandals. Those scars made me want to throw up. Like,
I would love to tell you,
and he's great for showing that, but you got to not show that. You know what I'm saying?
I would like to say that Alex Smith might be the third greatest quarterback for both the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs.
And Montana's on both that list too.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know it's not true. I'm just joking about it. But, like, you've got like Trent Green, you've got, Mahomes, you've got Alex Smith, you've got who's the guy that was like old school for the Chiefs?
Oh, the one where they won back in like Super Bowl 5. I have no idea.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. And then, for the Niners, you got Steve Young, you've got, Kaepernick, you've got Montana, and you're looking and you're trying to figure out, you're like,
belong with those two.
You're looking at, hey, who can I put next in, and I'm saying to myself, holy crap, Alex Smith played for both of these teams. Alex Smith, I believe, took both of those teams to the playoffs at one point in time. And now we're sitting here going that he's in a sandals commercial. I'm just saying, Alex Smith does not get the love that he needs to get. He is not that bad. I mean, he is on the not that bad bandwagon.
Cousins just 10 years ago.
I think Kirk Cousins can throw the ball a little bit better than him, downfield at least. But he is on the not that bad bandwagon. But like Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys are on the other end of the not that bad. They're on the not that good. Alex Smith is on the not that bad.
The potential is way bigger than we'll ever achieve bandwagon.
That's the problem with the English language. That's the problem with the English language. If you're an English language learner and I say a phrase, oh, it's not that bad or it's not that good, like, how are you supposed to figure that out? Like, who
Put up a picture of Dak Attack.
Who in the English language decided, hey, not that bad actually means good, and not that good means bad? Like, I mean, like, come on, people, figure it out. Like, this is just put Dallas Cowboys.
Can we
Dallas
tell that
Cowboys,
he's a teacher, y'all?
Dallas Cowboys get you and the answer to a lot of that stuff. But Joe, you know, I got to sign off. But I'm excited for the playoffs. We'll see everybody on Friday for our betting show. And you already got one of Joe's bets right away. I think you should roll with him. He's much better than I am at this. But that Hassan Reddick with a sack and the Eagles win, that seems to be.
I already have had Hassan Reddick since midway through the year as my Super Bowl MVP.
Seems to be a lock.
Day with y'all. See you next time.
Peace.